Hello, and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be exploring polynomials. Now, you have explored polynomials in previous courses, but today I want to review how to classify a polynomial by its number of terms and its degree. Let's start by classifying polynomials by number of terms. So when we have a number variable or product of a number and one or more variables with non-negative exponents, this is called a monomial. And here we have an example of a monomial, negative 3x squared. It has one term. In our next expression, we have 5x plus 8. This is the sum of two monomials, or we often call it a binomial. In our next polynomial, we have x squared plus 5x minus 7. This is the sum of three monomials, or a trinomial. And lastly, we have x to the fourth power plus 3x cubed plus 5x minus 2. This is called a polynomial, the general term, polynomial. So four or more terms, we usually call it a polynomial. Now, we can also classify polynomials by their degree. So if the highest power you have in a polynomial, like say you had 8x plus 2, the highest power of x is a 1. So a polynomial of degree 1 is said to be linear. That's because if you graph it, it's going to make a line. Now, what about when your highest degree is 2? Well, this is what we call a quadratic polynomial. And when you graph it, it's going to form a parabola. All right? If you have the largest power, or the degree is 3, then this is a cubic polynomial. And if your largest degree, now they hid the largest degree from you on our last example, our largest degree does not actually come first, it's in the middle. But remember, degree, when you're classifying by degree, you want to find the largest power of x. So here our largest degree is 4, so we would call this a quartic polynomial. Now, polynomials are said to be written in standard form when its terms are arranged in descending order of their exponents. The term with the highest degree is written first, followed by terms with progressively lower degrees. So in example 1, we're going to examine 4 expressions, and we're going to rewrite them in standard form, indicate the degree, and then classify them according to the degree and the number of terms. So in our first expression, we have 2 minus 2x squared minus 3x. We want to identify our largest power of x, and that is going to be a 2. So this is a second degree polynomial. Now, to put it in standard form, your largest degree goes first. So the negative 2x squared will go first. Then our next largest power, which would be negative 3x, and then positive 2. So because our largest power was 2, this is a quadratic polynomial. And because it had 3 terms, we call it a quadratic trinomial. All right, next expression. Our largest degree is x cubed, so that would be a degree of 3. So I'm going to put my negative x cubed first, then my 2x squared, then my, oh wait, I see something we need to do here. We have a 3x and negative 5x. To be in standard form, all of our like terms need to be combined. So 3x minus 5x would be negative 2x. All right, because our largest degree here is 3, this is a cubic, and it also has 3 terms. So cubic trinomial. All right. In our next expression, our largest power is 4. So this is a 4th degree polynomial. So I'm going to put that first, negative x4. Now I see some like terms that need to be combined. 5x minus 5x is 0. And then we have negative 1 plus 3 minus 2. So negative 1 plus 3 is 2, and 2 minus 2 is 0. Well, everything here zeroed out except for our negative x to the 4. So to classify this, it would be a quartic, because it was degree 4, monomial, because it had one term, monomial. All right, pause the video and try the last problem on your own. When you're ready to check your answer, press play. All right, welcome back. I said that this was a polynomial of degree 3. When I combined my negative 2x cubed with negative 7x cubed, I got negative 9x cubed. Then I combined the negative 3x with positive 3x and got 0. And then I combined the 2 and the negative 4, the 2 and the negative 4, and that will give me negative 2. So this would be a cubic binomial. All right. Now, so that's one of the things we can do with polynomials, is we can classify them by their degree and their number of terms. Another thing we can do with polynomials is we can add or subtract them. So to add two polynomials, you combine like terms and express your answer in standard form. So for example, over here we have 4x squared minus 5 plus 3x squared minus 2. So if I were to combine like terms, I would combine the 4x squared and the 3x squared to get 7x squared. Then I would combine the negative 5 with the negative 2 to get negative 7. All right. To subtract two polynomials, you have to be very careful. You want to first rewrite the expression as addition of the opposite, and then add like terms. So here we have negative 5x plus 2 minus the quantity 2x minus 4. So because this is subtraction, the first thing I want to do is rewrite this as addition of the opposite. So positive 2x becomes negative 2x. Negative 4 becomes positive 4. Then I can combine like terms. So negative 5x plus negative 2x is negative 7x. And 2 plus 4 gives me positive 6. All right, now in our next example, we're going to look at a few more complicated expressions. So it says simplify each of the following and write all answers in standard form. So I have 2x cubed minus 6x to the 4th minus 5x minus 3x cubed minus 8x minus 5x to the 4. So the first thing I need to do, because this is subtraction, I must rewrite this as addition of the opposite. So I'm going to change the minus to a plus, and change the signs on everything in this second polynomial. So negative 8x would become positive 8x. Negative 5x to the 4 would become positive 5x to the 4th power. All right, now that I have it rewritten, I can start to combine like terms. But we first must identify our largest power, which in this case is negative 6x to the 4. So that will get combined with 5x to the 4. So that would give me negative 1x to the 4. Now I go to my x cubes. So I have 2x cubed, and here I have negative 3x cubed. So when I combine those, I get negative 1x cubed. Now I look to see if I have any x squareds. Nope. So I go to the x's. So I have negative 5x and positive 8x. When I combine that, I get positive 3x. So now we've combined those. We've made sure to write it in standard form where our powers are going in descending order. All right. B, we have 3/4 times the quantity 12 minus 20x cubed plus 2/5 times the quantity 10x cubed minus 5x plus 25. So I want to start by distributing the 3/4. So 4 goes into 12 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Then 3/4 times negative 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 3 would be negative 15x cubed. All right, multiply everything in the second parenthesis by 2/5. So 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4x cubed. 5 goes into 5 1 time, and 1 times 2 is 2x. 5 goes into 25 5 times, and 5 times 2 is 10. All right, identify the largest power, which is our x cubed. So that's what we want to combine first. So negative 15x cubed plus 4x cubed would give me negative 11x cubed. Then our next largest power is negative 2x. And then 9 plus 10 gives me 19. All right, problem C. We have 2 times the quantity 7x squared minus 3x minus 5 minus 3 times the quantity 8 minus 3x squared minus 4x. So in our first parenthesis, let's distribute the 2. So this would be 14x squared minus 6x minus 10. And now we're going to distribute the negative 3. So negative 3 times 8, negative 24. Negative 3 times negative 3, positive 9x squared. Negative 3 times negative 4x, positive 12x. All right. Now identify your largest power, which would be the x squared. So I want to combine 14x squared with 9x squared to get 23x squared. Then I'm going to combine negative 6x with 12x to get 6x. And finally, combining negative 10 with negative 24 to get negative 34. All right, pause the video and try problem D on your own. When you're finished and want to check your answer, press play. All right, welcome back. On this problem, before I started, I noticed that I had a subtraction symbol right here. So I changed that to addition of the opposite before I did anything else. All right, then I identified the largest power, which was x cubed, and I identified all my x cubes, and then I combined them. So 4 minus 5 would be negative 1, and negative 1 plus negative 10 would be negative 11x cubed. Then I didn't have any x squareds, no x's, so now I'm going to combine negative 5 plus 12 is 7, and 7 plus 7 is 14. Final answer. Now, in addition to adding and subtracting polynomial expressions, we can also add and subtract polynomial functions. We follow the same rules. So in example 3, it says if f of x equals x cubed minus 2x squared plus 8x minus 1, and g of x equals 7x squared minus 4x plus 3, find an expression for each of the following. In problem A, they want f of x plus g of x. So f of x is the expression x cubed minus 2x squared plus 8x minus 1. And they want us to add that to g of x, which is 7x squared minus 4x plus 3. All right, let's start with our x cubed nothing to combine it with. Then combine your x squareds, negative 2 with positive 7, which that would be positive 5x squared. Now combining 8x with negative 4x to get positive 4x. And combining negative 1 with 3 to get positive 2. All right, in our last expression, they want us to find f of x minus g of x. So I'll write down f of x. And I want to subtract g of x. So the first thing I need to do, because this is subtraction, is rewrite it as addition of the opposite. So now I can combine. My largest power is x cubed, nothing to combine it with. Combine negative 2x squared with negative 7x squared to get negative 9x squared. The 8x with the 4x would be 12x, and the negative 1 with the negative 3 would be minus 4. And that concludes today's lesson, Introduction to Polynomials.